Alright, YouTube, it's me once again. I probably still sound just as bad, but I found my audio quality last time to be not too terrible, so hopefully you people can hear me. This video, obviously by the title, we're going to be rambling on about Exar Kun, a Sith Lord who has, I believe, a lot more importance in the history of Legends canon than Naga Sadow, and in many ways is one of the more important Sith to even discuss. Though I find myself to be one of the very few people in the world, apparently, who call him their favorite Sith Lord, because in fact he is, for several reasons. I recognize he's not the most powerful, most skilled, but he's up there. I mean, I at least beg you people who watch this video to admit he's at least up there. You know, he's not Lord Vitiate, who, again, can suck the life out of a planet, choose to go from body to body, do all these magnificent things that just make some of the Sith of old and new look terrible by comparison, but again, get to him at a different point. Now, one thing I want to get clear once again, if someone didn't watch my old video, this is not in any way some sort of expert on Star Wars talking about here, expert on the character. I'm not even going to be talking about his powers and prowess and things of that matter. Well, I mean, I'll discuss what I think about him, but I'm not any expert. I'm not claiming to be, and I'm not about to tell you why he could kill this guy in a battle or that guy in a battle, or go foot to foot, toe to toe, hand to hand, saber to saber, yada yada yada. I'm only here to somewhat summarize his life poorly, although maybe humorously, I've been told by someone, and then give my overall thoughts on the character and their importance, why I like or dislike, why they disappoint me, and then hear other people's opinions. Hopefully if they watch the video. If no one watches the video, I'll just keep going on, and one day maybe someone will, and that'll be worth it. As long as one person honestly watches any of my videos and gives a care, I'll be happy. Alright, but we're 2 minutes in, and I think it's enough talking about petty things about my poor video and my likely poor audio quality. Although I think I sound a lot better this time around because I'm probably not racked with nerves. Anyway, moving on. Exar Kun, his life, as far as we're aware, starts when Tales of the Jedi, the comic book series, starts, and there's not a lot of background into his childhood, which is a little disappointing because I'd like to see personally how his childhood molded him into the person we come to see him as in the comics. Because when we first come across him on Dantooine, when we find out that the old Jedi had a conclave on Dantooine, he's not evil, although the comic book kind of makes him a little stereotypically put-offish, asinine, a dude you really wouldn't want to chill out with if you knew in real life because he's kind of a downer. But still, he's on the arrogant side, but it's in many ways I compare him to being a precursor to Anakin Skywalker's fall, becoming Darth Vader, but I'll get into that in a minute. We find him on Dantooine, and he is the prime, I'd say, apprentice to Voto Sios Bas, who is the Jedi weapons master, I believe he's described as, which also means he is also a master duelist. I don't know if he's the master duelist of the entire order of that time, although the comics kind of make him out to be, which is very interesting, because we come to learn that Exar Kun is perhaps the greatest Jedi duelist alive at that time. Maybe on par with Ula Keldroma, as we see later, but I tend to think of him as being perhaps a bit better. If that battle with him and Keldroma had gone on longer, I wholeheartedly believe Exar Kun would have won. But again, that might be my bias. I'm not saying I'm definitively declaring that, that's just me. We see that he has at least two fellow apprentices, I suppose. Silvar and Credo. Credo seems more like a fanboy, but he genuinely seems to have some sort of connection with Exar Kun, which I'll talk about in a minute. And Silvar, who is Credo's mate, because they're Cathar and they mate for life type weirdness, but hey, I believe this comic book is what made Cathar cool in Star Wars, by the way. But yeah, she doesn't like Exar Kun, scratches his face, gives him 3 battle scars that will carry for the rest of his life. But you know, you can't be a badass unless you have scars. Anyway, he's an arrogant Jedi apprentice who thinks he can conquer the dark side. Yeah, we know the story. We first come to know him because he's viewing a holocron containing a Sith holocron containing the exploits of Naga Sadow, looking particularly human, as I said in my Naga Sadow rant. The comics with Naga Sadow didn't come out until after these comics, so they didn't really know what if the Sith were a species or just an order type thing, and then later on they decided we'll make it an order and species mixed together type thing. So they look human, but that's not the important part. His master comes across him looking at it, tells him, you know, you should be looking at that. Only masters can look at that and understand, deal with what they learn in there. Exar thinks he's above everyone else. The standard arrogant Jedi type shtick going on there. Kind of, once again, precursor to Skywalker, but moving on. They're training. The whole lead up to what would later be considered the Great Sith War is going on in the galaxy. And it seems odd to me that so much is going on politically, but the battle master of the entire order is just kind of contently on Dantooine doing nothing but training his students, but, well, you know, whatever. So, we cut to a training session between Silvar, Credo, Exar, and Vodo. Exar gets into a scrap with Silvar. She scratches his face. It's here that we're led to believe he's a little racist, or if you say specious, I guess. You know, human superiority and all that good stuff. I believe he calls her a dirty alien or something along those lines, scratching his face, because not only is he arrogant, but he seems to kind of think of himself as being, he kind of is led to make us believe he's kind of vain, kind of probably likes the way he looks type character. So yeah, scratching his face probably really did send him over the edge. Vodo challenges him, try to humble him some, and Vodo only wields a stick, a staff. But it looks like a stick, but it's a staff. And, you know, we learn later on that various people can empower weapons besides a lightsaber to hit with the Force to handle a lightsaber, so it's not that big a what the fuck type moment. So he duels him, Exar is beaten, Vodo has him at his mercy. Thinks it humbles him. Credo, for some unimaginable reason, decides, hey, I'm going to toss him another lightsaber. So he tosses him a second lightsaber, and it's here that we come to see that Exar Kun is unstoppable, seemingly, when he's wielding 2 lightsabers, which will be then transferred into the notion that with a double-bladed lightsaber, he's better. So he thrashes around his master, beats him, cracks his stick in half. So somehow he broke through the Force barriers around his staff, so that leads, again, I think, to the notion that he's a Nemon master, where Nemon is the form of lightsaber combat, Form 6, I believe, where you know a decent amount of all the other forms, Shicho, Makashi, Shien, Gemso, Ataru, Sarisu. I'm probably forgetting one that's not, well, you know, maybe Juyo, but I think maybe Juyo came after. But still, later Nemon practitioners probably had to learn a little bit of that too. And you know moderately all the other styles, and you blend them together into Force moves as well. And it's supposed to make you decent, not great, but the thing about Kun that I find very interesting, and a lot of other people find really interesting, is that he seems to take Nemon to the next degree, where you become a master of Nemon, and in a very awkward way, it's kind of it makes you believe that you're a master then of the other forms by being a Form 6 Master Nemon, which is an interesting concept, and it leads for an interesting discussion on his lightsaber abilities, but I'm not the person to talk about it. But I do believe that that is what led him to become such a master, is that you can't exactly pin down what move he's using in a particular set or particular moment, because he's blending all of them together to fight against you. And if you are, say, Sharisu bound, a little more on the defensive leaning side, or not really defensive, but you let the opponent sort of pound on you and then return later, you don't get a good fix on what he's doing, even though you can tell, oh, he knows Nemon, he's using Nemon. But if you were a Nemon master, it's a little hard, because next thing you know, he's pounding on you like Gemso, and then he flows seamlessly into a Makashi set. It doesn't really, in my opinion, lead for a great ability to defend against such attacks. But anyway, that's a little rant on his skills in Saber. So he beats Vodo, and then arrogantly says, "Oh, yeah, I beat you, so I'm gonna leave now, because you're not gonna make me a Jedi Knight. I deserve to be a Jedi Knight. I'm not a Padawan anymore." Vodo lets him go. I think Vodo is more along the lines of a teacher who's like, "Alright, go out into the galaxy, or the world in our case, and go make an ass of yourself, because you'll come crawling back, and I would have taught you a lesson." And I think Vodo later comes to understand not only was that a failing, but probably telling him all the time that he is the best student you've ever had, and you are perhaps one of the greatest masters of the time, probably didn't help with his attitude, his arrogance, his pride. Okay. So we're off Dantooine. The Tales of the Jedi kind of goes back into the whole Keldroma, Sunrider, Arcajeth type story, where the Beast Wars of Onderon are over. The Nad Uprising. Again, we're on Freedon Nad. Freedon Nad's been dead. King Amin, I think you say his name is, and Queen Aminoa are on Onderon. They're causing trouble. Darksiders, I think they've been defeated by this point. And Freedon Nad's tomb has been moved to Duxon, which will become very well known because of Knights of the Old Republic 2. And oh, the conclave on Deneba, or Deneba, however you want to pronounce it, is going on, or getting started, because they're going to discuss how the dark side seems to be making a big comeback in the galaxy, which is again one of the main reasons why I love the comics and love the Kun time era a lot, because it opens the doorway for a lot of things that people of the Extended Universe really enjoy, and one of them is being Knights of the Old Republic. I'm not the biggest Knights of the Old Republic fan, but I understand its impact and additions it's made to the Legends Extended Universe, the canon of the Extended Universe, which again, for those who didn't watch my other video, I only consider Legends canon, the Legends Extended Universe, my canon. I don't care what Disney tells me. I'm not going to let Disney dictate to me what did and did not happen. But that's, again, for a different video. But the big problem in the galaxy at this point is the fact that the Keto children, siblings, I kept calling the Daragon siblings in the last video children, like I'm some sort of old person. I should have just said siblings. The Keto siblings descended from Empress Teta, which I don't know what happened to that family, in control of the Empress Teta system, essentially royalty. Have been going around to Coruscant, to some stupid Sith museum they have on Coruscant from the Great Hyperspace War, the war that lasted several hours. And they also make their way to Onderon after they hear about the end of the Natus Uprising, but how it was dark side related. They want to find out, they want to find tomes, books, anything to teach them how to use the dark side, because for some unknown reason they just know they can use the Force. It's not exactly the clearest. But when they get to Onderon, they're confronted by Freedon Nad's spirit, kind of in the way he was confronted by Naga Sadao's spirit on Yavin 4. He teaches them, and then I think he comes to realize that they're pretty weak and not exactly the type of people that he could use to bring himself back to life, because that's the end goal for any Sith spirit. Excuse me, taking a drink there. So his overall plan at some point is to turn Ulic Qel-Droma to the dark side, into a Sith. He confronts him after the Naddis thing. I think knows that there's a somewhat dark side to Ulic in there. But again, it's not exactly clear Ulic is that capable of being a bad guy. It's more like just normal human anger that comes out of a moment. But I'll talk about Ulic Qel-Droma later. Oh, this video is going to be a lot longer than the last one. So, and yes, these videos are very no holds. I'm not reading from the script. I'm more just reading off the top of my head. So if I ramble a bit more annoyingly, I apologize. So that's going on. But he's on Deneba, or Deneba, again, whatever you want to call it, right now. Or I don't know exactly where he is. I'm pretty sure he's on Deneba already, unless him and Nomi, Sunrider, are somewhere else. Again, the Satal twin... No, they're not twins. The Satal cousins. They're cousins, not siblings. Jesus Christ, I'm a moron. They're cousins. My apologies. Return to Empress Teta. Alima knows how to use, again, Sadao type powers, magic and alchemy, and illusions are her thing. Satal doesn't really look like he's learned much, except maybe a couple of illusions, and Satal is a big idiot, which is probably why they kill him off. Spoiler. So they return, they apparently torture their parents, the royal family, and then take the throne, and then they either create or were part of some inner little club of rich and powerful dweebs from Empress Teta and the system who could use the Force and wanted to know the Sith powers, and they call it the Krath Cult. Interesting name, I suppose. Oh, I know where Ulic is now, but I'll say it in a minute. So they launch a crusade, it's called, to take over the entire system. So essentially it's a civil war. We're told, led to believe, that there's a lot more supporters, a lot more people who are delving into this alchemy and this dark side stuff and going along with the Satal cousins in their bid to take over the entire system. And so the Republic, again, the big bunch of morons they're out to look like, or meant to look like, don't send a massive military force there. I believe Empress Teta is part of the Republic. Instead, they send a small fleet to maybe subdue the cousins. And this is where Nomi and Ulic are, actually. They're part of the Jedi squads that came with the fleet there. But the Krath fight back hard. I think they're right over Empress Teta to attack the capital, which is the main world anyway of the system. And Alima utilizes her illusions to make the Republic fleet think they're under attack by these big jellyfish type creatures that traveled through space and apparently ripped into ships. And apparently they've been thought extinct. And again, I'm sorry I don't know their names. If I saw them, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's their name, but I forgot. Again, which is kind of pathetic since I have the comics and I could have easily looked them up. But Nomi Sunrider sees through it. They ignore the illusions, which again doesn't really make sense to me because apparently Naga Sadow's illusions were so powerful they could actually kill people. But these are like, oh yeah, crap, these giant jellyfish are coming to attack the ship. Oh, the ship's gonna break apart. No, it's not. I just don't get how that works, but, you know, whatever. It's a comic book. Let it go. So then they send all these fighters up who are suicide fighters, and they ram into the fleet and the ships, and then they all start to retreat. It's a victory for the Krath. They're all happy, and they plan to pay the Jedi back, apparently, because I think Alima gets hurt by Sunrider through the Force, and then they decide, hey, we're gonna pay those Jedi back, all right. But that's later. Okay, so back to Exar Kun, the one who's the main point of this video. He travels to Onderon first, I believe. Unlike the Sitao cousins, he goes right to Onderon. Comes across Arca Jeth, who is Ulic and his brother Kay's master. Arca, again, a Jedi master who's really well renowned, can see that Exar Kun is something's not right about him. He just hasn't entered darkness, but it's like, no, let him go. Let him go learn for himself the evils of the dark side, or I can't help him because Lord knows I have to look like a non-combative type person. It's just, if you see a guy in trouble, maybe it's nice to reach a hand out and say, hey, let me talk to you about why it's bad. But anyway, he lets him go. He comes across some sort of protests on the side of the Nadists, who think the Republic is occupying them, and they put a puppet in charge from the Beast Wars and the Nadist Uprising, with, even though she's the direct descendant of the King and Queen, I think her name was Princess... Was it... Oh, fudge, I can't remember her name either. Oh, bad with names. But I believe she married the Beast Rider chieftain, or just leader, because his name was Orin Kira, I think his name was? Something like that. And so they formed a union between the Beast Riders and the people of Isis, the one city in Onderon, and there's supposed to be peace that way. And I think they actually do care about each other, which is nice, but, you know, who knows and who really cares? So he protects the Nadist protesters from a crowd of people who are apparently beginning to get annoyed and throw shit at him. He's a Jedi, and they're all like, oh wow, geez, we're leaving. And then he has the Nadists take him to Duxon, to Nad's tomb. I think they try to screw him over or something. They try to attack him or something along those lines, and he easily dispatches them later on after he gets to Duxon. Obviously, he comes across Nad. I think Nad has him take a book, or no, sorry, that was the Sitao. That was the Keto cousins. I'm getting them mixed up again. Nad, I think, directs him towards Korriban. How he knows about Korriban is conjecture, really. I mean, you could say, oh, maybe Sadao told him about it, but it seems like when Kun goes to Korriban, people really haven't been going there for a long time, so... Yeah, well, maybe it's on the books. Maybe people know where Korriban is because of the war, and people just don't go there often. So yeah, maybe my argument's invalid. Kun goes to Korriban. He... I think here's the spirits of all the Sith who are dead there. Nad screws with him, and, well, Nad and supposedly were led to believe the other spirits of Korriban test Kun by dropping a bunch of stones and things of that nature either on him or in his way, or both, and won't let him get out of the one of the tombs of Korriban, one of the tombs of the Sith, unless he utilizes the dark side. I think maybe he was crushed under them, not exactly hurt, but he couldn't lift them or something ridiculous like that. And so the only way he can get out is to use the raw, intense power the dark side gives you in moments of pain, emotion, things the Sith would tell you would make you powerful. He does it. He takes one step closer to the dark side, and he frees himself. He utterly dislikes Nad, but apparently the spirit won't leave him alone, and he keeps asking him for help. So, Nad, I believe, tells Kun that the spirits and himself believe he's passed the test, whatever test that may be. Yeah, the test of torturing someone to use the dark side. That's a great game plan. Well, it worked several times, so what am I talking about? Torture seems to really be a capable weapon to turn a Jedi evil. Anyway, So then I think he directs him towards Yavin 4, where he came across Naga Sadow's spirit and all the power and knowledge that's hidden there. The conclave of... You know what? He was crushed by rocks, because I remember now he was crushed by the stones and he was told to use the raw power of the dark side because his body was hurt. And he sent out a plea to Vodo, who was on his way to Deneba to meet with the conclave there. And Vodo tried to reach out and help him mentally, talk to him, ask him maybe where he was. Nad, I think, blocked him, and that was when Vodo really started to realize maybe it wasn't a good idea to let Kun go out because he was in pain. But apparently the pain of Exar Kun was so powerful, and his screams were so well echoed throughout the Force that even Ulic and the other Jedi were like, whoa, what was that? So that, that is just another piece of information I'll use for the argument that he's a lot more powerful than a lot of people want to make him out to be. So he has to accept the dark side, and Nad heals him, or we're led to believe that, and it contradicts a lot of other Star Wars sources that says the dark side can't really heal somebody per se, but Nad uses it to heal him, which is another like non-real canon type thing they call dark side heal or something stupid like that, which a lot of other Sith would probably like to know how you do that, but who cares. So he's healed, he leaves, he goes to Yavin 4. The conclave on Deneba is going on, and that's where the Krath unleash the war droids, the Krath war droids, who were again later on told as like the basis for General Grievous's design, although that's probably just something they added into canon, saying, oh yeah, they were the basis, even though they really weren't, just to kind of bring the canon and the extended universe together, which is fine, but I don't really believe that Lucas said, hey, look at these droids, let's make Grievous look a little bit like these. I just don't think he did that, but it's nice to know that the people in canon and in the extended universe were like, hey, let's connect these two. It's a good thing. I'm just saying I don't believe it was supposed to be. The Krath war droids pretend to be servant droids, and then they attack the Jedi with... There's just lots of them, and I think they just use blasters and like little swords that come out of their arms. They kill a lot of them. I think they even kill... Yeah, they kill Archijeth, Ulic's master. Ulic is distraught and decides to go to Empress Teta and confront the Sital cousins himself, which leads to very, very bad stuff later on, but that's for in a moment. Exar gets to Yavin 4, is confronted by the Massassi. I don't know why Frieden Nad wasn't confronted by the Massassi, because we're not led exactly to believe he did, although maybe he did, who knows. The Massassi attack and bring him down somehow, and they have priests, so they have a caste system. They have a system of people who do things. It's not just they're a bunch of barbarians, although I guess you can define what a barbarian is, but they have priests. Zithmanur, I think his name is, or Zithnir, or something like that, tells them to go strap him down and sacrifice them to their god, even though it's just a Sith worm. W-Y-R-M, not W-O-R-M. It's a worm, some sort of... One of the many Sith beasts will come throughout the extended universe who are just made with alchemy and magic and grotesque creatures. And this one is gigantic. But it's supposed to be sacrificed to the worm. I think the worm attacks, and once again, Nad tells Kun the only way he'll win is if he unleashes the dark side, accepts it, things of that nature. And I'm not exactly sure what happens, but he gets carried up, I think, by the worm. I don't know if it's like chewing at him or something along those lines. He uses the Force to pull from Zithnir, I'm sorry if I'm ruining that name for you. He yanks from him some sort of amulet that is attached to this hand device type thing. And if you've ever seen Stargate, the thing the Goa'uld system lords put on their hands, it kind of looks like that. But I'm not going to talk about Stargate. I'm not even going to mix those two together. My apologies. He calls it to him, and he embraces the dark side, apparently, fully, wholeheartedly. With that amulet, we're led to believe it enhances his powers, and I'll talk about why I don't believe that really works as an argument against him. But he uses it, and he unleashes what we've come to know as a Force Blast, or Dark Side Force Blast, where it's not even like, he doesn't like really, he's not showing using Force Lightning, although we're told later on he can. And he just unleashes this beam of energy that's kind of like led to believe like a blaster beam, just a million times stronger, and it just kills the worm. And that essentially makes the Masashi bow down, and oh shit, if he can kill the worm, then obviously this is a real god. So the Masashi make him basically a deity. But then again, any Dark Lord of the Sith really is their deity. So Nad, seeing that Kun's finally just given over, he's become the Sith, he's fully imbued in the dark side, decides then to tell Kun that he can go about helping him recreate his body. This weird moment, always, at least to me, always happened where Nad kind of off nonchalantly goes, my son, you know, something like, you know, kind of like Palpatine with Anakin, like my boy or son, just, you know, something an elderly person would say to just a younger person, because it's just saying, it's not really saying I'm your son, but he looks at his hand with the amulet and just goes, I'm not your son. Nad kind of just scoffs, like, oh, don't be so, you know, silly, dramatic, or something like that. That always seemed weird to me. It always seemed like Exar Kun, it just seemed like a line that wasn't necessary, but it could have layers to it. Either he's thinking like Vodo, because there are moments later on where it makes you think he actually did genuinely care about Vodo more than he let on, which is something I like to hold actually true. Or you could take that as him just being a Jedi. He's like, oh, I never knew my parents, don't act like you are. Or, I don't like to think that way, but if you want to, that's fine. And then he proceeds to obliterate Nad's spirit. He attacks him spiritually with the Force, and his spirit, as we're told, begins to fade, and he warns the Keto cousins of a pretender, Exar Kun. Yeah, I don't know what he thinks is going to happen. I don't even know how he thinks that he could possibly be beaten by the Keto cousins, as we'll come to learn later. So Exar, now that Nad's out of his way, now that the Masashi are his total obedient servants, and again, they look like the mutated kind. Again, the kind I think are the more better looking of the Masashi incarnations. Tentacles coming out of their head, the fleshy type growths on their face, which are a replacement for hairs. Again, very menacing, very cool looking. I think these Masashi really embody power and just menace of the original Sith species. They didn't look bad in their original incarnations, they just looked a little too humanistic. I like they looked tribal when they were humanistic, but I prefer that they look more monster, grotesque, but big tanks. I mean, if you look at one full body shot and just how they're built, they look like they could frickin' tear you in half. I kind of compare them, this is going to sound really stupid, I kind of compare them to like the Uruk-hai of Lord of the Rings. They just look beastly. Big, broad, massive muscles. They use swords, and the Landvaroks, which chuck these big discs that apparently can rip you in half if they cut you. But again, I shouldn't mix the two together. I'm just saying that's what they always remind me of for some weird reason. Exar has them as his servants. They begin unearthing the Sith battleship Naga Sadow left behind for him. They begin, I think, rebuilding some of the old temples and building new ones in his honor. And again, they work really fast. And then I believe he goes off to, I don't know if it's Dantooine, Dennaba, or Ossus. It could be either one of the three, although I don't think it's Ossus. So it has to be either Dantooine or Dennaba. And he gets together a bunch of Jedi and tells them the Jedi Masters are lying. I've conquered the dark side. I'm a Jedi Knight by my own decree. And some of them are like, that's great, but you're asking us to abandon our masters to make you our master. It's very kind of, I like how he is portrayed to be kind of this smooth talking, maybe not exactly the greatest, but still smooth talking underminer. He's trying to, he's kind of gone into full blown evil guy mode where he's lying. Obviously, he's a snake in the grass, but he doesn't come off that way. And I think his arrogance and his prideful nature and even his looks play and help that out. But he brings a bunch of Jedi with him back to Yavin 4. Os, Willem, Zona Luca, Credo. Yeah, we'll talk about Credo in a second. Several other Jedi who look like no other alien in canon, but they'll give them names, I'm sure. And I don't know what their actual names are at this moment. Bring him there. This, no, wait a minute. Oh yeah, he was at Ossus, I think, because he confronts the Jedi who was in the Great Hyperspace War, who lived for 1,000 years, Oda who was a Drathos. Pretty cool alien design there. And Oda for some inexplicable reason, had a Sith holocron with him for a whole 1,000 years, protecting it, keeping it with him, which could lead one to go, whoa, what was he doing with that holocron? But I just tend to think he was holding on to it for safekeeping purposes. Because, you know, the Keto cousins got into the Coruscant Museum with no trouble whatsoever, so I mean, someone's got to keep these artifacts. If you want to keep Sith artifacts, honestly, you need to give them to people who can just watch over them to make sure people don't get their hands on them. So he kills Oda with the Force. We're not exactly told how, but some Jedi Master who's lived 1,000 years, he is decrepit, I will admit that, he is decrepit and old, but still, to kill him with just the Force, that, again, displays power I don't think can just be chalked up to his amulet, or his amulet helps, sure, but I don't think all of that can be chalked up to, oh, his amulet killed him. No. I think he had immense power. The amulet is helping him to channel it, and he killed Oda and took the holocron. He comes to the Jedi Knights and goes, look, Oda just died and gave me this holocron. He made me a knight before he died. Because, you know, no one goes to say, oh, where's the body? Or no one bothers to question that much. So the Jedi go with him to Yavin 4. They see his temples. He starts talking to them about how the Jedi lied and how the Sith, like, I think he goes on about how the Sith can't be all that evil or something. I think Os Willem, alright, says someone like, oh, screw this, I'm leaving. And that's when the Massassi corner him. Things start to get out of hand because the Jedi and the Massassi seem to be having a confrontation of who's going to blink and attack first. And Exar is trying to calm them down, trying to make the Massassi look like misunderstood people. And then does something that I'm not exactly happy happens. He breaks the holocron, and out of the holocron comes dark side spirits or something along that line, which, whatever, I'm not going to question how that happened. And they infect, it says possess, but I like to say infects. You could say possess, but I'm going to say infects the Jedi. And again, this is annoying to me because it converts these Jedi to Sith acolytes without them necessarily saying, okay, I want to be. It's turning someone evil without them verbally, mentally accepting that they're going to be a Sith. So again, it kind of makes an argument that it isn't the person who does evil acts. It's just the dark side. It's not something you choose. It's something that's forced upon you, which I don't agree with. I think there are evil people who choose to be evil, not that they're infected by it and just turned evil by means of not of their own volition. So I don't agree with that. So I like to think of them as being more with just infected, but even then it's not exactly the greatest. So then, with them being uber evil, all of a sudden, except for Kratos. Kratos doesn't seem to be infected, which is weird, but Kratos is like Exar's fanboy. So no one needs to worry about Kratos. Exar unleashes the Jedi into the galaxy and says, go kill your masters, go kill other Jedi, and they do it, which is what is unofficially titled, well no, it's officially titled, but it isn't officially its name, the Jedi Pogrom. It isn't a purge, because there's not a great big mass murder of Jedi on the scale of the first, second, or third purge, but from what we're led to believe, quite a few Jedi begin leaving and joining Exar. Again, we're not shown, which is very sad, and a lot of them begin dying. And this is why I really appreciate Jolie Bindo's story in Knights of the Old Republic, because it goes to show that there are Jedi who were won over by his argument, not turned over to his argument, and who engage against their masters for Jolie having to be his wife, which is all the more sad, but let's move on. Because this is starting to turn into a really long conversation, or ramble. I'm not even really all that done. So, with that happening, Exar decides he's going to go take care of the Ketos, because they're pretenders in his eyes. And he wants to be, obviously, the only Dark Lord of the Sith. I like he didn't take a Darth title. I don't think the Darth thing was really... I don't even think people really understood that Darth was a Sith title thing yet. I think people still kind of thought it was just Darth Vader was the name he chose. So people weren't going out saying this is Darth this and Darth that, although it became a thing later. So his name is just Exar Kun. But anyway, I don't even know why I said that. Exar Kun goes out and goes to Empress Theta. Ulic and Alima have begun sleeping together. Ulic was turned to the dark side. He went undercover, trying to get on the Keto's good side. He got caught, he got tortured, and he was given some drugs. He was given drugs that were painful and helped him turn slower and slower to just accepting the dark side, because it freed him and released him. And Alima begins flirting and winning him over. Satal gets jealous, which gives more layers to those two. That's a lot more creepy, and I don't want to explore it, but he gets jealous. He wants to kill Ulic. Ulic is free. Him and Alima begin sleeping together. She says, what if I want to be conquered? And, oh, so gross. Ugh, God, I hate Alima for several reasons, although I think she is a cool evil character. She's just gross. Ulic kills Satal. Nomi and the other Jedi, including his brother Kay, I think, come to try and pull him out. He doesn't want to leave. He joins with Alima. They decide that they can't force him to leave, even though him and Nomi were supposed to be together, which again is like, great. You know? Nomi already having lost her husband years before and having a daughter, you know. She just doesn't have good luck with men, apparently, because Ulic killed Roma. Jeez. So... So then after that happens, we're told by, again, the Old Republic makes it believe like a big battle ensued. It wasn't. Exar landed on Empress Theta just after this. Ulic's hurt. He's bandaged up. Alima's there, and they're like, you know, planning their domination and their power and yada yada. Exar shows up, kind of just mocks them. Alima says, oh, you're the pretender Nad told me about. And he just flings her aside, and he's like, hey, you calling me a pretender? You just glimpsed the surface. Again, it goes to show he's a lot more powerful than people want to make him out to be, because he just tossed a woman. I love this scene. I don't exactly want to get into an argument about how this portrays him as being more powerful than maybe he possibly is, but I think it goes to show that he's a lot more powerful than people want to give him credit. Him and Ula get into a lightsaber fight. And this is where we're led to believe that they are equals in saber fighting. Again, I believe Exar would have eventually won. But Ulic, I think, somehow had an amulet of his own. I don't remember exactly how he got a Sith amulet. But the two amulets him and Kun have meet somehow. And they create this weird warped vision of Mark Arachnos in his distinctly human-looking form again. And he berates them, bestows upon both of them Sith, that they're both Sith, but he distinctly pronounces Exar Kun the Dark Lord of the Sith, and gives him that tattoo on his forehead, which, interesting looking. I like it. I just don't like the way it's kind of looks. It looks like a painting in the comic book, and the drawings of him make it look more like a scar, which the scar form looks a lot better. And he also gives Ulic his own. They're based on the amulets that they had, so Ulic has his own forehead thing, which is not as interesting to me, but still pretty interesting. And he says Ulic is Exar's apprentice, although they barely ever have any sort of dialogue or actions that make you believe one's master, one's the apprentice. They kind of just look like two allies. So then they form the Brotherhood of the Sith, and then they begin the Great Sith War. Although the Great Sith War is more like a war of is called, I think it's called the Great Sith War because it's more like a war that contained many miniature conflicts within it. Kind of like, you know, World Wars, like the World Wars, where they you could kind of argue that they were a bunch of separate wars concerning similar countries fighting over different things, but in the end of the day, it's easier just to call it World War I, World War II. So that's what I think the Great Sith War was, because they include things like the Naddist Uprising, the Beast Wars, and the Krath Crusade as being part of the war. Although we are led to believe that the war was more galaxy-spanning. Once again, we're not shown it, but we're led to believe it. Okay. So they're made the Sith, and the Great Sith War officially begins. Oh yeah, and they decide to make Alima like the third head, which is just great. I'm surprised she didn't freaking proposition Exar Kun, but thank God that didn't happen. And I frankly believe Exar would have laughed it off. Anyway, so the Krath and the Massassi essentially team up together. We're also led to believe through other sources and whatnot that other people begin to join, and they begin the war. So it's weird because then the comics open on the Mandalorians, still comprised of a lot of their originating species, which fudge, the Tong? Yeah, the Tong. Their original species was called the Tong. And I do believe that this comic was the origination of the Mandalorians, which again, might not be 100% factually true on that, but if I am, you can thank you can thank Tales of the Jedi for the Mandalorians even being a thing. So they're led by Mandalore the Indomitable, which I think is ironic, and I think they knew it would be ironic. So he's leading the Crusaders. Now the ones in the Mandalorian Wars are known as Neo-Crusaders, in case someone doesn't know that. But these were the original Crusaders. And they're attacking Kuar. I don't know exactly if Kuar is a world under Krath control, although it should be, considering that Ulic takes issue with it. So Mandalore and Ulic engage in one-on-one combat in Kuar. Ulic trounces Mandalore the Indomitable, and instead of killing him, he humbles him and makes him a servant. And by doing that, he brings the entire Mandalorian society, all the clans, together and make them a third allied faction in the war. Which, if you consider Massassi, Mandalorians, and the Krath teaming up, that's a very scary proposition. So what do? They go to war. They lead several. Ulic and Alima seem to be very much going across the galaxy and causing mayhem, invading and attacking places left and right. Exar calls them and tells them to calm down a little bit, let him build up more Jedi converts, build a stronger Sith base to attack from. Ulic apparently has gone full-blown evil at this point. And, I mean, he's smiling and grinning like an idiot in several of the scenes where he's doing something evil. They attack the core planet of core. I don't know if it's the core, the deep core, but I'm pretty sure it's just the core world of Fornost. Fornost. It sounds like Lord of the Rings place, really. Exactly. Or is it Forost? Is it Forost? If I said it's Fornost, I'm wrong. I'm a total freaking moron, and I'm mixing my I'm mixing my fantasies together. I think it's Forost. And I said Fornost. I'm a moron. Sue me. No, seriously, I apologize. They attack Forost, then they seize a lot of warships, I think, because Lord knows you can't build a shit ton of warships with the one or several systems they actually own. But other comic books in Knights of the Old Republic lead us to believe that the war was actually more galaxy spanning. Again, we're not shown, which is very sad. Because I mean, like, there's battles on Top Warwa. How the hell did they get the Top Warwa, and what are they attacking with? But anyway. And yeah, the Dark Reaper thing apparently happened. We're not exactly told. We're not. The Dark Reaper came after, so you know it was kind of retconned in that was a thing. I kind of wish that maybe it was a thing when the comics were coming out, because it might have shown more conflicts going on of what is supposed to be a galaxy-spanning war once again. But at least this one took several more months, weeks, however long they're saying the time progression happened. Unlike the Great Hyperspace War, that again I think was a couple of hours. So they get the ships from Foros. Elima convinces Ulic to launch an attack on Coruscant itself, because she's trying to play him. It's kind of obvious. So they attack Coruscant. Exar is like, alright, let him go do what he's going to do. If he gets screwed, I don't care. Again, doesn't really show master and apprentice type relationship going on here. He more or less kind of tacks him on as an apprentice, more as an afterthought. As an obligation, maybe, because Mark Aragno said it. I don't know. His base of operation on Yavin 4. People don't know where Yavin 4 is, apparently. The Jedi pogrom's going on. Several dozen, maybe 100 Jedi were told, again, not shown, told, which, you know, could work, that a lot of Jedi are dying left and right. Oswillum and I think Zona Luca go to attack Jedi Master Thon, what's his name? The big beast Jedi Master that trained Nomi Sunrider. They get beaten. They're like, oh, these Jedi, why are they evil? Stuff like that. Exar, I don't think does anything else. Like, he doesn't really attack any world during this little interlude. He's building up forces on Yavin 4, sending out Jedi to do his dirty work, talking with Credo, Silvar, and Credo. Again, they're mates, but Credo is gone with Exar Kun. He really likes Exar Kun for some reason. I don't know why. I think he's just sort of a fan of his, looks up to him like a big brother almost, which again, I don't like what happens later because Exar Kun could have had a lot more depth to him, but again, anyways, the story progresses only because Ulic attacks Coruscant. Apparently they're doing really well. The Mandalorians and the Krath attack the planet, and they apparently we're told are doing really well. They almost win, but because they're helped by Alima's delusions, whatever. And but then what happens is Alima pulls her forces out and pulls the Mandalorians out because she leads Mandalore to believe Ulic gave an order for all of them to pull away from his position. They retreat, and all of it was a big, dumb, elaborate plan to get Ulic out of her hair, get caught, and make her sole leader of the Krath, and maybe the Mandalorians as well. And I guess maybe number 2 to Exar Kun, because I think maybe they're implying that she is going from strongest to strongest until she wipes them all out herself, or maybe snuggles up with who's the most powerful Sith at the time and does whatever she has to do to make sure that she's number 2 or tricking them, but it doesn't go that far. So Ulic's caught. He's going to be put on trial before the whole Senate. Why the hell are they going to charge someone like Ulick before the whole Senate? Doesn't really make sense. It'd make more sense if they charged him, the Senate charged him, but then he was put under Jedi court, because obviously they're not going to be able to contain him. Mandalore, not exactly believing Lima after the fact, goes to Exar Kun on Yavin 4, pleads with him to come help him get his master, because now Mandalore the Indomitable seems to be totally hooked on being Ulick's fanboy. Maybe it's an honor thing for the Mandalorian, I don't know. But Exar kind of sighs, like, alright, well, I'll go help him. So there's a second battle on Coruscant. Again, we're led to believe it's more of a grand battle, but we're only shown a little bit of it. He goes into the Senate hall after Ulick's given some sort of big grandiose statement on the Sith's return, made Nomi cry, apparently. Exar comes in, grabs the hand of the Chancellor, this very squid-looking alien who doesn't look like any other like any real other alien species that will ever see again, except maybe he has similarities to not Mon Calamari, oh man, I can't remember their name, and I freaking know who they are. They're very it hurts me because I know who they are. It's gonna bother me, but they're from the same planet as the Mon Calamari. He looks similar like that, but he's not one of them, I can assure you. He grabs the back of his head, Exar, and freezes the entire Senate where they are, like forced stasis, you could say. And by holding the Chancellor's head, makes him repeat every word he's saying, and then goes on to give his own grandiose statement about the return of the Sith. And again, this goes to show just how monstrously powerful Exar Kun is. I don't think you can really say his little amulet is helping him do all of this all on its own. He had to have some of this in him, and I think, again, the amulet is channeling power that is already inside of him, not giving him oodles of power. Because if this amulet was really that powerful to make anyone just this brokenly powerful, why didn't everyone have it beforehand? They could have put it in. They could have gone with the next set of comic books about Naga Sadao and said, oh, he has a bunch of these amulets, he's going to give it to a bunch of people. He doesn't. So obviously, this amulet wasn't all that important, so that must mean that it's channeling power, not exactly giving power. So, again, I'm just saying, I don't give any credence to the argument that all of his power comes from this little tiny amulet on his hand. It's enough to kill the Chancellor, apparently, because he just falls over after that. And then Exar kind of just starts to strut out with Ulick and leave with his Masasi guard. Silvar and Sunrider and Vodo confront him. Silvar wants to attack Exar, I think calls Kratos a traitor. If Kratos there, I think Kratos there. Maybe Silvar called him a traitor at some other point. But she, somewhere along the line, she calls Kratos a traitor, slashes at him, cuts him, and they're broken up, even though later on she comes to regret Kratos' loss, which I know, at the heat of the moment type thing, I guess I can understand. So, boy, this is getting long. I hope maybe people like that I'm talking about this much, but anyway. So, Exar leaves with, he begins to leave, but then Vodo confronts him. Vodo, having known that this is this is kind of mirrors, in my opinion, Obi-Wan and Anakin, Vodo takes on the blame of failing Exar Kun. Wants him to come back. Exar challenges his master. Again, Vodo fights with a cane type stick thing, a stick staff, I call it. Exar and him begin battling. They're more evenly matched. Exar wants Voto to come join him if he beats him. Can't really ever say I saw Anakin really say, "Hey, Obi-Wan, come join me." Although in the movie you could say that if you're not with me, you're my enemy was kind of like a declaration of come join me. But I don't really see it that much because he's kind of really pissed off at him in that moment because the whole Padme thing. But let's not talk about that. And it's where he shows off his double-bladed lightsaber, which again is very he remade, even though it was originally said he created it's been retconned that he remade the weapon because that stupid set of comic books to come out and people bitching about him being the first to make a double-bladed lightsaber people just decided to change the fact that he was probably the first one to come up with a double-bladed lightsaber into he remade it, but I just think people just didn't like that for some reason. So he remade it. It's still unique because it's only the size of a regular saber hilt and not as long as like Darth Maul's from the movie. Or even as long as the ones you see in Knights of the Old Republic. It's double-bladed blue. He didn't go red, which is cool. And that's where he beats Voto. Again, he's too unpredictable, he's too fast, and he's too, when he wants to be, overwhelming. Beats Voto, kills him. But again, the comic has this weird scene where he's looking on over Voto's fallen cloak. I think he kind of faded like Obi-Wan. And Exar's face doesn't look happy. He doesn't look like he just killed someone and is enjoying it. He has this sneer on his face, this grimace and his frown, and then he just like turns and leaves with Ulic. No one's going to stop him. And I honestly think that the comic writers were portraying that in some twisted way he really did actually care about Voto. Probably looked at him as like a father figure, because obviously they still took Jedi when they were really young here. Although with Nomi, it also shows they took Jedi when they were older. But it comes off as showing Exar was young when they brought him in. And I think he had a real connection with Voto, even with no one else. And when he killed him, it was more of a heat of the battle type thing. And afterwards, he just... I mean, yeah, he did say go on to your higher plane and did intend on killing him in that moment, even though he said, if I win, you can join me. I think that came along because they were fighting and Voto was trying to turn him, and then he just got pissed and he killed him. And to me, it seems like he was having moments where he's like, maybe I shouldn't kill him, maybe I should kill him, trying to get him on my side because he didn't want to exactly kill him, but did because maybe he knew that there was really no way he'd get Voto onto his side. So he killed him, and I don't think he was happy about it. I think he actually shown some deep regret. So again, that's a layer to him. Maybe I'm forcing upon him, but I will believe it. So yeah, they leave. They return, I believe, to Yavin 4. Alima, oh, Ulic, you're okay. Oh, geez, I'm sorry, you know. And Ulic knows that she screwed him, literally and metaphorically. So a plan by him and Exar is put together to get rid of her. Very, very oddly, they give her the Sith warship that Gav Darion had, that Nagasadao retreated on, and it has some sort of weird crystal force focusing type weapon. And Exar teaches Alima how to use it to rip the core of a star out and basically kill people that way. Again, like I said with the last one with how Gav died, most simple yet moronic attack ever. Sends her to the Kron, I believe, system? Well, I mean, it was still the Kron cluster, but I think it's also a system. And she's supposed to engage a Republic fleet there with Jedi Task Force. She rips out the star, rips out the core of a star, of one of the Kron stars, but then it becomes unstable, obviously, and she can't control it. And they also sent Credo with her to command the ship, because Exar just inexplicably goes, oh, he's too he's loyal, but he's annoying, and he's like too trusting, or something stupid like that. It doesn't really make sense why he wants to kill Credo. Credo seems to honestly give a damn about Exar, seems to want to learn. I don't understand why you can't make Credo a little more important than just, oh, he's annoying, let's kill him too. Sends him with Alima, whips the star core out, goes Nova, takes everyone, Jedi, Republic Trooper, Krath, whatever, the whole ship, Credo, Alima with them, and begins a chain reaction in the Kron cluster that we're told is the greatest explosion in galaxy history for a while, at least, because it begins a chain reaction of supernovas, essentially. So, while that's going on, and the Kron explosions are apparently so massive and so big that they're going to go towards Ossus. The Jedi begin evacuating Ossus library with all their books and whatnot. Exar goes there with Ulic and Masasi, and they try to take a bunch of information with them, lightsabers, books, holocron, things of that nature. He's confronted by his name Udnar, Neti. I'm sorry if I'm getting the name wrong. The Neti are a weird plant species. He even says it's time to chop down a tree or something, chop some wood or something ridiculous like that. Exar says that. He engages, the guy realizes he can't ever beat Exar, and then turns into a tree that will be there until the time of Luke Skywalker, which is like, okay, whatever, I guess that's a thing. And keeps within him a bunch of old Jedi lightsabers. I don't exactly know why he wouldn't want Exar to take the lightsabers. I guess maybe they belong to ancient Jedi of renown or something. I don't know. But they do steal a bunch of other stuff from the Jedi library there. Ulic engages Kay, his brother. He kills him. That brings great pain to Ulic. He gives himself up to the Jedi. Exar leaves with all this information and whatnot. Kind of just doesn't care about Ulic, I guess. Goes back to Yavin 4. Nomi cuts him off from the Force. Something apparently the Jedi can do, but very rarely do. She cuts him off because she knows that wall of light technique, which again doesn't really make all that much sense. He gives himself over. He tells them where Yavin 4 is. A massive fleet goes to Yavin 4. Exar refuses to be taken, refuses to die, although that's kind of hackney, and I'll say why in a minute. So he takes every single living Masasi on the planet. I don't care what the Old Republic says. There were no Masasi around after Exar Kun. Okay, he killed them all. I don't care that the Old Republic showed Masasi still being there. I don't think they were. It just doesn't make any sense, and it breaks a lot of things that were established before the Old Republic came along. And once again, I'm not going to allow one game that came along to tell me what happened in a comic book that they have no say in. Same thing with Disney. Don't tell me what I do and do not consider canon. So he brings every Masasi together into this large stadium-type temple thing, straps himself in, looking like he's crucified almost, and begins an ancient ritual that sucks the life out of every living Masasi. He also created apparently this thing called the Golden Globe, which is like all the spirits of Masasi children stuck inside. Like, I don't know, what was he planning to do? Like, maybe if he ever returned, maybe he could rip the souls of the Masasi out of the globe and use them again as living Masasi warriors, which is an interesting idea. But anyway, it's handled later on in Luke's time again. And he kills all the Masasi adults, sends one abomination into some chamber that'll protect him, and he becomes this mutated creature. I forgot what his name is. Big, bulky Masasi warrior. I don't exactly... Again, I think he was planning on returning one day and using these Masasi, or this Masasi at least. But he kills all the Masasi, rips his soul from his body, it destroys his body, and the Jedi above use the Wall of Light, and it descends upon Yavin 4, and it apparently sets the whole moon on fire, and begins to kill off everything anyways. I mean, it grows back later, obviously, but, I mean, you can't tell me there are Masasi alive, and this big fire that we're led to believe burns the entire moon to the ground didn't kill all living things, except for the Masasi, for the Old Republic Jedi to fight. So, yeah, they're all dead. And that's essentially how his story ends. Until, later on, after the movies, Luke Skywalker setting up Praxium on the moon. his spirit begins influencing several Jedi, and one named Gantoris he burns alive as a spirit. Again, this really shows that he's really powerful because he doesn't have an amulet in the afterlife, and he's using the Force to burn living Jedi who don't have any defenses. Apparently, he burns Gantoris alive. He influences. Oh hell no! I did not forget his name. Oh god, I can't remember anyone's name when I'm trying to do this series. I swear. I am not going to give up that easily, so I'm going to look up what his name is. If you hear typing, my apologies. Okay, what was the guy's name? He influences Kip Duron. Jesus, it's not that hard. It influences Kip Duron, who becomes oddly important later and somehow gets this huge fangirl base. Kip uses the Sun Crusher, destroys an entire system, looking for his brother. Ironically, kills his brother in the process. He fights Luke's soul on another planet, or traps him there. Says if he turns enough of Luke's students to the dark side, he can take their souls and remake his body. At the end of the day, this story isn't exactly the best. I like the comic books better, but to say the least, he's beaten. His spirit is taken into the void with Bodo, kicking and screaming, and that's the end of Exar Kun.
Okay.
This recording is already an hour long, so I'm going to make my feelings on him known. Hopefully it won't take much longer. Exar Kun does not disappoint me as much as Naga Sadao did, though he does a little bit for certain reasons. I'm not going to get into it that much, though. Exar Kun, first of all, is a Sith Lord who does a lot more damage in a littler time than Sadao apparently had. Again, the comic books are wonky in how they try to display that. But he does a lot more damage. He begins the galaxy down a course that it won't ever really be free of the Sith. Again, really. Because after the Great Hyperspace War, there's 1,000 years of peace. Well, general peace. And then Kun comes along in like the 4,000 mark, BBY, and begins the Great Sith War. And then from there, there's the Great Hunt to kill all of his abomination creatures, the Tyranitex, the Battle Hydras, all these dark side creatures that apparently he created. Again, were not shown. And then that leads into the Crusade. Oh, because you see, Mandalore the Indomitable, he died because he was sent by Ula to go attack Onderon. And they were beaten back by the Beast Riders, and the Mandalorians retreated to Duxon. And Mandalore the Indomitable was killed on the moon by the native creatures. They find him, and the Mandalorian that finds his mask becomes the next Mandalore, and that becomes Mandalore the Ultimate. And that leads to the Neo Crusades, which leads to the Mandalorian Wars, which lead to the Jedi Civil War, which leads to the aptly named Great Galactic War, which isn't exactly the greatest war in all history, but again, I'll talk about that another time. Which leads on into eventually the New Sith Wars, which last apparently for 1,000 years themselves, which leads to another 1,000 years of apparent peace. But then, of course, the Clone Wars, Galactic Civil War, yada yada yada. My point being is that from his point on began the chain of events, the snowball effect that would eventually lead to the movies. You could argue that it would have happened anyways, but I'm just saying that in the old canon, the conflict that he got involved with in the chain of events, because Mark Aragno says, "You will never let the Sith die. You will be the reason they do not fade." And they even use this in the Old Republic to maybe signify that for some reason the Sith Lords of old did not agree with what the Emperor Vitiate was doing, which is interesting. I've always found that an interesting concept. Maybe because, they found out Vitiate wanted to suck the life out of an entire galaxy now and go from galaxy to galaxy just sucking people dry. Killing people. My apologies. instead of just ruling over people, which, you know, maybe the Sith didn't want to just kill everybody. Maybe they did want to rule over people. I like Exar Kun because, once again, he's shown to be powerful, whether people want to believe his amulet or not. You can't make the argument, oh, if he didn't have his amulet, he would totally be beaten by such and such. That's like saying if Darth Vader didn't have his freaking suit and mask, he'd be beaten by such and such. No shit, if he didn't have his suit and mask, he'd be beaten by anybody because he wouldn't be able to breathe. You can't just say, oh, someone automatically loses because they don't have gear on them. It's like saying, you know, oh, who's going to win, the human or the freaking tiger that he's fighting? If he has a stick, he might win, but if he doesn't have a stick, he's going to die. Your gear is what also defines you as a fighter. Don't give me that crap that, oh, if he didn't have it, he'd lose, so therefore he's weak. He's not weak. He's a lot more powerful than people want to give him credit for. I like him because he kept a blue lightsaber, which is very petty of me, but I like it. I like that he recreated, in quotation, the double-bladed lightsaber. It was only single hilt size. I like that I'm going to show a picture, by the way, in this video. He's a lot more darker toned. I like that picture of him a lot better than the one that's usually shown of him. Very pale and veins are showing. I like the darker toned Exar Kun. For some reason, that just appeals to me. He just looks a lot more brooding in that picture, but I digress. Yeah, he looks good, by the way. He looks like he looks like a dude that if you saw him and he was giving some sort of grandiose speech, you might actually think he was kind of an intelligent, interesting, arrogant, but, you know, type person that might be able to win you over with his voice, his charismatic nature. I don't know. The only person who ever did his voice on the audiobooks, he didn't sound bad. He sounded a little different from what I thought he'd sound like, but he didn't sound bad, but I don't really define that as being Exar Kun's voice too much. I like the Great Sith War. Again, it's more of a war of mini wars, but what was done in that war would scar the Jedi mentally. Because the other thing about like Ulic Qel-Droma and the stuff that happened between him and Nomi is what led to the Jedi essentially having this ban on love in the Jedi, and would lead to all the kookiness that came in the movies, but also it also, for all you people who are real KOTOR fans and Revan fans, and I like Revan, but Jesus, I'm not as big a fan as some people. Some people make him out to be the Star Wars Messiah, okay? He's not Star Wars Jesus. But some people want to think he is. That's fine, just don't tell me he is, because I don't think he is. But you can thank KOTOR for a lot of things. I mean, you can thank Tales of the Jedi for a lot of things during KOTOR. Without Tales of the Jedi, a lot of things in KOTOR wouldn't have existed because Tales of the Jedi set those things in stone. For one thing, the Sith of old, the whole fact that the Sith in the unknown regions, Dromund Kaas, the whole thing, if you don't like the Old Republic, I understand, but Knights of the Old Republic and the Old Republic couldn't have the story that they have without Tales of the Jedi, first of all explaining Exar Kun, but also Naga Sadow and all that happened. So for someone to tell me Tales of the Jedi isn't a big stepping stone in the extended universe, it's just a straight up lie. I like that it opened the gateway for the Old Republic and then all the other stuff that came afterwards. Exar Kun, personally, his powers, obviously his strength, his biggest strength is his lightsaber combat. He can fight toe-to-toe with the greatest, and he only lost because he didn't want to die and he ripped his own soul from his body. I wish we would have been shown a little bit more of his skills in the Force and combat, but again, comic book constraints really don't allow you to show too much. But he's very powerful. He was charismatic, apparently, because he won people over. He was he was just a defining Sith. I think when he came around as an evil character, he defined what a Star Wars Sith Lord could be, what one was. For a time, I think it was they tried really hard, the creators of the comic book, to display him as being like one of the greatest of them all. And you could argue maybe he was. I'm not saying you have to accept that face value. I mean, you got Bane, you got Vader, you got Sidious, Plagueis, you know. But I would personally put Exar Kun up there in like my top 5 at the most, at the least. I put it in my top 10. Because I definitely am not putting Sadao in my top 5. Again, I put Sadao in my top 10. Maybe. So yes, I think Exar Kun was really important, really cool, really interesting. Now, why he disappoints me is just kind of general comic book reasons. He's not shown enough, he's not given a lot of time, yeah, so on and so forth. Kills Kratos for no reason. When he goes evil, he has moments of genuine character development where, like, okay, he doesn't want to kill Voto, seemingly, but then other times he'll look at Kratos and be like, oh, yeah, you're useless, I'm going to kill you too. It seems like a step in the wrong direction. I didn't appreciate that. But, you know, I guess if you're evil, you just throw people away, even though the biggest fanboys could be one of the best zealot workers for you, but whatever. Who cares? Who honestly cares that much about it? I do. No. But, yes. Exar Kun, Voto CS Boss, Ula Kildroma, Nomi Sunrider, everything in Tales of the Jedi helped make the Legends Extended Universe canon, my canon again, what it is, the big story stepping stone that it is. I appreciated that for it so much more. Exar Kun is my favorite Sith Lord out of them all. I'm not saying he's the most powerful, but me personally, he's my favorite. I will defend him as a Sith Lord forever, and I hope Disney never, ever, ever uses him in one of their stupid movies or any of their stupid books, because frankly, I think they'll just take the name and do what a lot of people do, where they just kind of use the name, don't really use the character for what he is, what he was, and they'll, you know what, I have him in comic book form. I have the book where the name eludes me at this very moment. I have the book. I have his pictures. I'll always have what he is, and that's how I'm going to remember him. I'm not going to... I didn't say this in the last video, but I'll say it now. I'm never going to go see the Disney Star Wars movies or buy any of their books, because their canon and their movies, obviously they don't care about people's opinions on the extended universe, so why am I going to care about your interpretation of Star Wars? As far as I'm concerned, Star Wars died after the... Star Wars ceased to be after the 6th movie, and the extended universe picked up what happened. So those 6 movies in the extended universe that is now is Star Wars to me. I don't care what comes after, and I'll talk about that more in depth on a different video. But as it is, this video has gone on for an hour and 20 such minutes. It needs to be done. Hopefully my voice isn't too terrible. And again, hopefully someone watches this video. I hope they do, because it's an hour long. And, you know, if someone watches and leaves a comment, tell me what you think about Exar Kun. Tell me what you think of Naga Sadao. If you want to go watch that video, it's 20 minutes. It's a lot shorter than this. You know, if someone honestly likes my opinions on things, you know, tell me something you want to hear me talk about. I'll talk about anything Star Wars. But I'm not going as far as to say, you know, people are watching this and demanding I say something. No, if you have something you want me to talk about, it's cool. If you want to hear more, leave a comment, like, you know, subscribe, be my first subscriber, please. And I'll make another video soon. So thanks for watching. I'll put pictures up. But mostly thanks for listening. Alright, see you next time.